Battlefield 6 for us is Battlefield taken to a whole new level. So for us, we wanted to get the core combat right, the destruction, all-out warfare, and the classes, and do the best Battlefield we've ever made.
Hey, Battlefield's a franchise that's been around for 20 years. There's been, a lot of things that have been done really well along the way. And when Battlefield really hits things, it knocks them out of the park. So this is about taking like all the best pieces, all the best things that have been done that have resonated with fans over the years and putting them together in one package and amping them up to the next level. Just so much learning from that DNA of Battlefield, those only in Battlefield moments that just, you can't get anywhere else.
When we look back, as particularly at Battlefield 3 and 4, those are games that inspire us, that we think are super iconic, and they're fan favorites. They're favorite of ours, they're favorite of our players. And so that was a lot of motivation behind us too, is that we wanted to build the spiritual successor to those two games. Portal is something really special for us and for Battlefield. We think it's a really unique part of the Battlefield universe. And for us, the big push behind it was we wanted to give more power to players. And for us, that meant adding a spatial editor. It means adding UI scripting, AI scripting, so that we could really give our players the tools to really have their imaginations go wild with what they could create with Battlefield. So that was the big push, is to get more power in the players' hands and see what they come up with. But on top of that, for us, what we want to celebrate what the players create. So if they create amazing modes, we want to put it on the front end of our UI, right next to our big time conquest playlists and things like that. And then on the third part of it is we want our players to get rewarded for playing them. So we wanted to make sure there's XP integration into those creations. So all three of those things are a big part of Portal for us.
We want people to take Portal, run with it, have fun with it, and do that we don't expect. Like that's what's going to be the best thing about Portal. And there's so much power there that it's going to be fun.
For us, everything started with the core combat. And for me, it's like, that's the hallmark of a Zampella experience, is that the combat's got to be superb. And so we've spent a lot of time and resources in making sure that we basically rebuilt it from the ground up. And our core combat team with David Sterling and stuff, they're maniacs. Like the amount of attention they've put into the gunplay, the movement, the feel, the audio, like we think it's the best Battlefield's ever been. So that's the moment-to-moment gameplay. Then we layer on the destruction. We know Battlefield's famous for destruction, but we think we've taken it to a level our players have never seen before. And it's not just spectacle, which is super fun, but it's integrated into the fun itself. And so for me, a lot of the proof in is like, we can't stop play testing this game. I dream about it at night and things like that. And so every match we play, the destruction adds some crazy element where there's shouting and hollering that you think you've got control of a capture point, and all of a sudden the floor collapses beneath you or the wall gets blown out by a tank. So that destruction's been taken to a new level. And then the team has obsessed over the classes too, to make sure that you feel that what you bring to the battlefield with each unique class is really special for that. And I think that's been a super fun. And then all of that gets brought together into all-out warfare. And for me, there's just nothing like that in all of gaming. When you're playing all-out warfare with Battlefield, classes, destruction, combat, jets, helicopters, tanks, like it's nuts. And I think for me, it's the most fun I've ever had playing a video game. One of the big design principles is to make sure that this is used by the players. And so there's a lot of cat and mouse gameplay with it, where it's like, okay, I've had so many instances where I'm like, all right, I'm bunkered down. We're gonna hold this cap point, and all of a sudden some clever opponent, uses some C4 and blows the floor out from underneath us. And so that's the fun we wanted to integrate in. And we just didn't want to have one destruction thing happen in the map for spectacle. We want it to be all around you. And it's even so much fun to just drive a tank through the map, just like crashing through buildings and things like that. And I remember early on when we were making it too, we're like, man, when you're crashing a helicopter, that thing's got to be able to take buildings out with it as it spirals out of control. And so for us, it's just like, we were just, having a ball figuring out like how many ways can we have destruction be a delight in this game.
things will be destroyed in a familiar way that people can learn, because it's not about randomness. It's about, like being able to replicate an experience. But at the same time, every map we've played, at the end of the day, the destruction has been different. At the end of that map, it's always been a different turnout than the previous game, So there's so many different ways that people do it, depending on where your team is posted up or what they're playing, what your team is doing. So like it's predictable, but also chaotic. Like it's like this great balance that the team has found. It's magical.
For us, the focus is on all-out warfare. Like we want to get conquest, breakthrough, rush right, and we've added to get it right. We've added escalation to it, which we think is a blast, and that's been the priority. So those happen on the big maps. That's what people are looking for. But we think the Battlefield DNA works in a lot of different modes as well. So domination, team deathmatch, squad deathmatch, King of the Hill, like we think our DNA makes those modes really awesome, but you have to have the right play spaces for those. So we have combat zones within those larger maps that are designed for those modes. So, you have Siege of Cairo, but then the Palace is where you might play team deathmatch. And we've designed and play tested that, the spawn points and so forth, to make sure it's tight. But that's how the combat zones work within the larger maps. The team is always like, man, we got to add more to the all-out warfare suite. We all love Conquest and Breakthrough and Rush, but they're always tinkering around with like new permutations. And the team brought this idea of escalation to the table, where you start the match with a lot of different capture points, and then as the match progresses and people take those points, the map gets smaller and smaller and more intense. In the last stages of it is crazy. It's nuts. The intensity just skyrockets. And so that's the premise of escalation, that it's all out warfare, but it's a whole new way to play that just gets more and more intense as the match goes. And it's one of those things, like the first time you play test it, you're just looking at each other like, man, this is really fun. Like this is intense. And so we're really happy the team came upon that. This is something that's really, really important to the design team. Like, we have so many veterans on the design team. Tompen Anderson, our franchise creative director, David Serlin, and so forth. Like, these guys are pros, and they've seen all the different permutations of classes throughout the years. And, there's always been some kind of flaw to them. And so they've sunk so much time and effort and iteration into class systems. And so the design that we were pushing forward with is this notion of like, we really want the equipment and the gadgets to bring out what that class does. Like that's what you bring to the table as a recon or engineer, support, and assault. And then you choose what weapon you want to use to augment that. And so that's what we call the open weapon system, which we think is a blast. But as we went through Battlefield Labs, like we know there's a lot of players out there who are just like, man, I really like when we have the class system locked to certain types of weapons. And so for us, as we move forward, we're going to have both. Like we think the open weapon system is a blast, and we're going to have the closed weapon system too. For me, that's the hallmark of Battlefield. It's like, man, play your way, like play how you love Battlefield, and we're here to entertain people.
The combat system in 6 has been built from the ground up to just be more responsive, to be, kind of like a tighter, better system. It's more refined, it's more precise, it's better, it's like, it flows better, I would say.
That's a really important point for us, is that it's built from the ground up. Like our team had a vision of this, like we wanted this to be the best combat system you've ever played in Battlefield. That means the movement, the gunplay, the audio, all the different features. So when we talk about like the notion of like even something as simple as drag and revive, like that's huge in Battlefield, that it's like, this notion that you're reviving teammates to stay in the battle and keep fighting forward is, to be able to go out into no man's land, grab a down teammate, pull them to safety, and get them back in the fight. A, it's a blast doing that, and B, it just really improves the whole team play. So when we talk about the combat system, it's the whole orchestra of all of that. The movement feels natural, feels smooth. The gunplay is just awesome with the audio. And so for us, it's like that combination, like we think we nailed it, and we hope the players feel that way too. Yes. With the Battlefield DNA, we think the possibilities are endless.